Presenting Patrick McMullan, a driven growth leader with a strong reputation, a track record of success, and a highly innovative mindset. Patrick is the president of 3 Square Market and 3 Square Chip Companies. Their latest tech ranges from solutions for dementia and Alzheimer's patients to exploring the limits of the Internet of Things. Let's welcome Patrick McMullan to speak on the topic, the Internet of People.
Morning, everybody. I'm Patrick McMullan. I am coming to you live from Central United States, and it's a pleasure to be on with everybody today and talk about the Internet of People and what we can do with the limits of technology. And in a world where everything has changed in our lives, I mean, let's face it, everything's from about late February 2020 till now, it changed everything. And when you had goals, you looked, what am I going to accomplish this year? You take your plan and throw it out the window. Well, that's kind of what my business was and what my life did 3 years ago. And any of you who've done a little bit of research on me, you may think, as I have on the screen there, I'm nuts. And when you look at different things, I even look at myself and say I'm nuts because I had a microchip inserted in my left hand live on the Today Show, which is watched by millions of people. And I figured I'd either going to be a YouTube hero and people would look at me and say, oh my goodness, what did this guy just do? He just passed out, because I hate needles. And I was going to have a chip put in my hand on live television. So you think I'm crazy, and then you may say, what is he doing with it? And you think I'm nuts. So before you do that, and why I think I can change the world, let's tell you a little bit about who we are and what we've done. We're a technology company. We've been in business for over 20 years, and it's been a business of evolution. And what I look at and what we are doing here is the same thing. We started, like probably many of you, as a very small business to where now we do business in over a dozen countries across Europe, another half dozen countries across the globe, plus every state here in the US and every territory. And what I look at and how we run our businesses is something that I challenge everybody. It's the premise of my whole discussion today is believe that you can change the world. The 2% mindsets. And if you look at the screen and you look at what those things that describe the people that live in that 2%, they're always looking to do new things. Now, given that I'm in the United States, a lot of you on here, it's a hot topic, is the election in the United States. And no matter what your political belief and whether you like President Trump or not, one of the things that he stresses is that outsiders change the world. Don't be afraid to be against the norm. And that's something that we believe in. We're relentless about innovation. We're relentless about taking what we say we're going to do and not only create it, but then service it and execute it. But most importantly, when we did this microchip and we looked about it, we embraced the unknown. We were excited by it, and we wanted to take and change the world by changing thinking. Because when you look at where we are and what we're doing, no one advances in life by sitting still. And I challenge you today, as you are watching this and as a leader of your business or leaders within your business, ask yourself what inactivity does. I would challenge you today to take a note and write this down: is fear and inaction and doubt is interest paid on a loan that you don't owe. Just again, fear, inaction, and doubt is interest paid on a loan you don't owe. And I always say that to my people, and I remind them because I challenge everybody to take action. And it's really the central point of what I'm talking about today. So let's go back to the topic at hand. What do people think that we're doing? Ask yourself that question when you read about possibly who I am, when you read about this presentation, you researched my profile, maybe you even saw me on the news, maybe you even watched what I did on the Today Show. You may ask yourself, what were these people doing? What was Patrick and his team going to do? People, when they looked at it, they thought, okay, they're creating a new world order. Something we've all heard about, again, with US politics, is the new world order. Well, what we're not doing but what people thought we were doing was tracking people. The device that's in my left hand is a completely passive device. You can't track me. Anti-religion, the number one complaint that people had and what we were doing, without question, that was the number one piece that people were looking at, was these guys are anti-Semitic. And that's the last thing that we were doing. And so again, as I stressed to you, no tracking, no anti-religion, and certainly we weren't forcing anybody to do this. We just weren't. And you may say, how did you do that? And what I challenge you again is that one of the next takeaways that I have from my presentation today is really to ask yourself is, what are you doing to challenge your employees to think outside the box, to be part of that 2%? And it was actually our staff were the folks that raised their hand and said, well, not only are we looking at doing this, we need to, if we're willing to do it and want to develop this technology, then we have to be willing to do it ourselves. So they came to me and said, Patrick, I think we should do this. Not only should we develop it, we should be our own guinea pigs and implant it. So there was a lot of different things when it comes down to is, what weren't we doing? So you may ask yourself why, and that's, you look and say, Patrick, there's so many solutions out there in the world. Why would you implant something? Well, first of all, we give permissions to companies, just like my slide says, every day. And I'm going to talk about in a few minutes about the information superhighway and over 55 billion avenues that your information travels down every day. But if you have an iPhone, an Android phone, you work on Google, you spend any time on Facebook, Twitter, any sort of social media, you are being tracked. You're on the information superhighway. You can do that, simply improve it every single time, because your internet activity and things that you were looking at on the internet show up on your social media, your location. You're always getting suggestions and getting push notifications as to, where are you? Here's a special. This is what you can do. They look at your buying habits, what you're eating. They send you advertising based upon different purchases that you make at certain stores. We let the world into our lives every single day. And just the fact that some of you are even watching this today, your information's going someplace. Now, the great folks at Niamo aren't the ones doing anything with it. But if you're watching this in a virtual setting and you're on any sort of Internet Explorer, they're gathering their information on you right now. All the demographics, all the different things that apply to you, and they're doing something with it. So when I looked at it and our group looked at it, we said, why are we doing things that stop us from not only sharing that information and be willing to take that data, but why aren't we looking at ourselves as human beings to take it to another level and be certain about different things, be certain about our health, be certain about our wellness? And we decided to, let's change the world. So what this presentation today, I stress to you, I'm not here to convince you that you should drop what you're doing this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are in the world, and go get chipped. That's not what I'm here to do. What I am here is to ask you and challenge you to think differently. Now, as you can see, this is a funny picture that's on the screen. And that funny picture I have up there is my dogs are chipped, I'm chipped. And after we did this, we said, okay, everybody that's chipped in this house, let's get to work. And my two dogs got up there and we all got to work. And after we had our big event, we did all this. This was the picture that went most viral of any of the things that I posted. So, as I stressed to you, I have a sense of humor about what we do because I know that not everybody is for it, and I respect that. But what I do challenge you before you make a complete judgment again on everything we're doing is, what if I can save your life? And what we've done, not only ourselves, but what has since come since we decided to take on this innovation is solutions and things that have come that can help save people's lives. It's life changing. And as I stress to you, there are things that I'll describe as right now is there are things in chips that are implantable that, let's face it, the number one cause of death in the world is cancer. It doesn't matter which country, which part of the world, it's the number one cause of death, in that they're now implantable chips that can real time measure what tumors are doing and how they're reacting. When you catch something like that early enough, and let's face it, I mean, if you have cancer, it's probably the scariest diagnosis that we can have, regardless of whatever age, because typically, you know, the outcomes aren't going to be great. When caught soon enough, it can be beaten. And there are now solutions that are out there that when they put that chip in that tumor, it real time measures exactly the size of that tumor and tells instantly. Whereas in the past, you do something like that, it could take weeks, it could take months, and cancer doesn't wait around to tell you, okay, it's working or not. It's going to continue to grow. And when you look at that and that we can save lives and we can do different things, that's why we did this. So when you go back to, and let's swing this into you being a leader in human resources across the globe, what are things that we do monitor that people do almost every day in some sense? Let's face it, I'm somebody, I really focus on my diet all the time. And I have a mobile app that I use that I focus and measure, what am I eating? How's my nutrition? I have my Apple Watch. I'm an Apple junkie. I track my fitness every single day. A lot of us on the phone track our steps. We do Fitbits. We data share with friends. We talk about our accomplishments. We share our locations, where we're eating. We let our mobile apps track where we are. We let our mobile apps pay. And our cars, if you have a car, depending on where you are in the world, every society has different uses, has different levels. Let's face it, if you have a vehicle that's less than 10 years old, the reality is that car is connected to the Internet of Things. And all of this stuff is being tracked, all of it. And so when we look at HR and we look at business and we ask ourselves, okay, what can we do? You may say, Patrick, I mean, why implant? Well, number one thing is, and any medical doctor will tell you, is certainty. There's no question that the information is yours. And secondly, there's no outside interference. So when we were at that intersection of asking ourselves, do we do this or do we not? If we were going to develop solutions that were going to change what we do in life, we had the implant. And it eliminates air. It eliminates everything from changes from, I'm here in the central US where there's snow on the ground. It eliminates weather as a factor, to activity where you have perspiration that could distort different things, to just the simple fact that I forgot to charge a device, I forgot to put it on, I left without it. And so we made that decision that's why we did implant. Now, as I'll stress to you, there's a lot of great tools in coming back to, as I say, is what about the workplace? I think it'd be a hard sell, especially in these dynamic times, to say, listen, let's go all get microchips for our employees. And I'm not here to sell you on doing that. I want you to understand the why. But when you look at technology and you look at all the different things that are available to you, especially now in this COVID world, not using this to me is not only potentially naive, but even potentially reckless, because we all have an obligation to help our employees. I mean, let's face it, we're all leaders. Yeah. If you're on this call today, I would deem that you are being a leader in your business. Reason being, let's face it, you're looking for new solutions, new ideas in this new world that we live in. So you're taking the time out of your busy workday to be part of this great event. And when you look at that, take and use information that's available to you. And while it may not be a chip, it can take things such as an Apple Watch and start to look at different things so that you can detect wellness. Because when you got employees that are working at their peak, that's when they contribute the most. And if you're using the information that exists to help them help themselves, that's where they feel you care for them as an employer. It's where you making an impact on their lives, it creates loyalty and it wants them to give their best. And so then I ask you at the end of the day is, are you willing to take that chance? When I took this and when I looked at, would we do this? Would we take this on? What would be the resistance? Why would we not do this? I didn't want to leave excuses out there that says, I didn't want to do it because we don't know. We're not sure. We've never done it. I looked at it and said, really, at the end of the day, why not us? When we started our journey and we looked at all the different things that we could do, and we looked at so many different technology solutions that are available out there in the world, I kept coming back to why not us? And that's the way we approach this. And that's where I actually, as the third takeaway for each of you, is ask yourself, why not you? Why not your company to embrace technology, embrace information that's out there on everything from vital signs to nutrition, to being able to manage stress using the different technologies that exist today that are non-invasive. And if you want to go to the extent that we did, you can talk to me. But I'm more, and my purpose of being here today is really the theme of what Niamo's talking about is rising above all the chaos. And especially in this COVID world, why not take your company and do something that changes their world and changes yours? Take advantage of the technology that exists and help get the most out of your employees and make an impact in their lives. Because let's face it, I mentioned this before, the information superhighway that's out there is running rampant every single day. Only 3 years ago, the information superhighway was 34 billion avenues. It's up to 55, and it's only going to continue to grow. So the avenues that exist for you to gather and get information to help wellness and help make your employees better, it's there. And when you look at today, when you ask yourself, Apple and Facebook and Google are making fortunes. And as I list there on the screen, data is the number one source of income now in the world, surpassing energy, surpassing oil as the number one source of income and wealth in the world. Are you taking advantage of it? So as you look at it, where everything's being sold, everything's being shared, what are you doing to help impact your business? And I'm not stressing that you should go willy-nilly and carte blanche as to what you should be doing, how you do it, what you need to do. What I'm stressing to you at this point in your journey, especially in this COVID world, is you cannot turn your back on it. You simply cannot. When you ask yourself within this COVID world, when the number one thing employers are doing is, I challenge you, is what has your business done differently since COVID started? Just think about that for just a minute as we go along here. Is when I think about where we're at and what you're doing and how you're handling this change in the world, I'll stress to you is that it's time to look at and say, is just taking a temperature of somebody is not the only thing that you should be doing to ensure that your workplace is okay. And when we go through and ask ourselves, what can I do now? I'm going to challenge you to look at and take an inventory of what you're trying to accomplish within your business, and how would deploying technology that exists to change everything that you're doing to make them better. So I'll make some suggestions as I start to convert and finish up here, and we'll be moving to a question and answer session here. And I already have a couple questions that have lined up. Is when you look at everything in the world, nutrition, everything begins and ends and can start with, and the most readily thing that we all have to do every single day is nutrition. It's not negotiable. So what are you doing around taking information and using that technology and making it so that you can put a program together to get more? So nutrition's number one, sleep's number two, exercise is number three. And when I look at that and I come back to what Niamo asked me to do and why would they have Patrick McMullan come talk, is because I was looking at and challenging you all to think differently and to get into that 2% mindset that I started the presentation about. Take the 2%, get outside the norm, and go change the world that you have. It may not be taking in a microchip and insert it in your hand, but I want you to challenge your thinking as to how you're handling your business and leading your business, and not be afraid to take risks, because we've helped and contributed developing solutions, as I described, that assist senior citizens who have dementia, to developing and working with hospitals with sanitation that you can't operate unless you sanitize. And the chip, even though it's not implanted, that chip ensures that a surgeon does not go in and operate without having sanitized, which infection's the number one thing that ultimately affects people from surgery. So we help create those solutions, and none of that would happen had we stayed within that circle of the 98%. So I challenge you to take the time today as a takeaway and ask yourself, what can I do differently? Why not us? So I have some questions here as I go along, and I'm going to bring up my screen and the chat, and my assistants at Niamo are posting these. So question number one, and if you have a question, go to the chat section and enter it in, and they will be posting those to me. But the first question is how does the technology and machines play a role in human decision making? Well, the one thing is I'll stress to everybody on that question is there's no more powerful computer or machine in the than the human brain. However, what has social media done to it's called clickbait, and they've come down to where they change everything in this world to where you got to continuously keep engaging. So if you are a company that has different things, what are you doing to use technology to guide your employees to where you want them to be, and what technology do you want them to be using? And I stress to you, when you talk about decision making, is what technology are your employees using in order to run your business? Question number two, in what ways do you think that interactions have changed between technology and humans? Well, let's face it, if you back up 10 years ago, I would ask all of you is when you would use your mobile phone, you used it solely for just calling. Now, your mobile phone's everything. Everything is centric to that, where we're talking to our phones. If I say certain things, Siri will start talking back to me. And so as I stress to you, is when it comes to businesses, what do you believe you're doing as a leader within your business to use the technology to your advantage? The interactions are only going to continue. When we have virtual reality now, that you can do a number of different things within virtual reality, are you doing different things that you could deploy within your business to help you there? The next question is what impact do these technologies have in the HR function in the immediate near term? Well, great question. And this is probably the one that I have the most passion about, because I'm a business leader. We have a couple hundred employees. And when we look at where we are today, and there's just, all you have to do is open up your phone, look, whether it's social media and the news, and they've really walked the dog. They're ruling our world. And what I'm looking at is asking you to use other technologies, some of the things that I've described, and start to redirect and reallocate people's time in what they're doing. What are they doing during their day, and what can you do using technologies to bring people to where you want them to be? And I stress, as I come back to, something that we spend a lot of time, and even here this morning in the US, as I was exercising, we have a group program that we have employees using to track their wellness and their progress. And these technologies, when you look at it, everything from performance tracking to wellness to nutrition to productivity to bottom line profits, all of these things can be used to and be measured. The Information Superhighway brings you endless data to you. And I stress to you is use it. So we're coming to the end of my session. I thank all of you from across the globe taking the time to again, as I said, invest in yourself, invest in your business, and really try to rise above. It's been a dynamic year. I wish you all luck. I wish you nothing but health and prosperity. I'm going to be in the speakers lounge, be logging in there in just a couple of minutes. I look forward to answering any more questions that you have. Reach out to me, follow me on social media, and I'm looking forward to watching you and all of us change the world. So thank you for joining me today.